Welcome to $1 Million Couple Podcast, episode number 6. Today we are in Nice in France.
Oh, if you move out to the side, you can see the background.
Hell yeah.
Beyond Martin's shoulders.
Always an issue.
Thank you for introing us on this particular episode. If you remember last week. Yeah, that's why he does the intros, because he's amazing at it.
So if you, as Sally said, behind us is the Med. It's beautiful all times of the year, which is cool. However, so we're in an Airbnb at the minute, and the owners, Alexandre and Arthur, two brothers, they're amazing. They've been super helpful. Highly recommend the apartment. It is incredible, like then views wherever we are. However, if you want to do a podcast or video, so I've been doing I've done a couple of podcasts this week as a guest. I've done some I've recorded a few things, and also this as well. The lighting isn't always the easiest to try and find somewhere in the apartment, is it? It's quite bright,
especially, well, I would say it's not. Anyway, we kind of have discussions on this anyway. But we just really like to get the background in it because it's beautiful, but then it means that the light is behind us. So there's constant juggling around. But
so Sally thinks we should buy camera equipment for to make it amazing everywhere we go. It's hard to travel with.
Exactly. So you've got that sort of debacle. So anyway.
Conversations about private jets, what happening, and all this kind of thing. So.
That's what happens when you're in an expansive place.
So
conversations are
happening. Anyway, so today there's so much we wanted to share. We try and do this off the cuff as much as possible, have maybe 2 or 3 bullet points, but we said this morning and there was 25 bullet points that I wanted to bring in. So I think there's a few that we want to cover. The first one is, if you haven't been to Nice, get here. It really is amazing. So I was saying on Instagram yesterday, the first time I was kind of backpacking in Europe, I came to Nice, and I tried to sleep in the car and on the beach, got moved on from the police, ended up camping in somewhere just outside of Nice, and it was awful, cold showers, it was just the worst.
But you did say you really liked Nice.
I loved it. Well, this was the thing. It was kind of one of those places, because I went to Nice and then the next day I went to Monaco, and I'd never experienced anywhere like Monaco before. It's a unique place anyway. But supercars driving around. I love cars. Just the vibe of it was everything that I ever wanted. I could see myself. I actually never thought I would live there. Ever thought that. However, now it's kind of it's just going to be one of the locations, isn't it? It's one of those things. It's Monaco, but Nice I would say is better, isn't it? It's not better, but just there's a bit more here, isn't there?
I mean, I don't know. It depends. It depends. You got to experience both, and you got to, I think, make up your mind for yourself. But for reference, Monaco is about half an hour's drive from Nice, so it's really close. It's pretty much just around the bend.
Literally.
from where we are. I personally like Nice because I do think, on a practical perspective, it is bigger. Practical. Monaco is very built up. I love Monaco, don't get me wrong, it is amazing. But Nice is a bit more spread out, and you feel like you can kind of breathe a bit more. There's a city, there's an international airport, so that's really close. And if you're, thinking of traveling a lot like we do, those things do come into play.
And if you've got a coaching business, consulting, clients can fly into you with ease. Whereas again, from Monaco, I'm not sure, maybe Monaco's got another way, because I'm sure it'll have private jets coming in, but I think you're an hour away from the airport at least, aren't you?
So all of these things, but I think what's really cool is when you get to experience it, I think you open up different conversations around, okay, could we live here? I mean, so many people have said, do you like Nice? And I've said, this is by far probably Nice is my favorite place in the world. I know that is a very big call, and there's many countries I haven't been to yet that are on the list. But so far, the food is amazing. The people are fantastic. The weather is incredible. It's expensive, international airport, like the list just goes on and on and on. So
because I think it's very different. Like if you go to Paris, Lyon, like the biggest city is Marseille. I think Marseille's quite similar to Nice, what I remember, but it's got a vibe. Whereas Nice is, I think, because it's more touristy. Like Sally said, the people are more friendly. Like people speak English more. Like we want to learn French, but it's very handy that. Whereas in Paris, I find that is the case, but it's also not the case as well. There's a definite vibe where it's a big city and less tolerant, whereas Nice is, it's a holiday place. I love that. And the food is really good, as in
we've really enjoyed snails, haven't we?
I said snails yesterday to the waiter, and I was like, I have 12 snails, and he's like, huh? So escargot. My bad.
Escargot.
Very
but if we see it on the menu, we get it almost every time. We actually really like it. You can get beyond the fact that you're eating snails. It
doesn't bother me at all.
Actually,
it's
really
great.
Delicious. Yeah, I recommend it if you haven't tried it.
Yeah. So Nice, highly recommend.
Yep.
Probably for me, Barcelona and Sydney were always my two favorite places in the world. Like those were my two favorite cities. We went to Barcelona a few months ago, and like I've probably lost that vibe for it. Like it's still cool, but Nice, I would agree with Sally, is probably Nice and Monaco, along with Sydney, are probably my three favorite now. Which
all
is
beaches.
Yeah, all beaches, all cities on the beach. But I love it's beautiful here. So highly recommend. What we're going to do as well, like if you want to check out this Airbnb and if you're in Nice, highly recommend it. Like location great, people, the two guys who own it. The brothers, they've been really helpful. Like anything that we've needed, they've just left.
Brilliant.
Really quick to respond. And the place is amazing. Like they've put like TLC into this place and made it really stayable. Whereas Airbnbs, little things like the spices in the drawers and things like that. And again, when you're paying good money for something, those are things that people do miss out. And we've stayed in a lot of Airbnbs. Those little things are really helpful for us because it means we just settle straight in and enjoy ourselves.
I think the biggest difference as well, like as Martin said, we've stayed at so many Airbnbs in
the world.
And I think the biggest difference between ones that are very homely and ones that don't have the essentials kitted out is that the owners live in the house. And
it's very true.
The ones that are very homely, but it's hard to predict that because when you're looking for an Airbnb, it doesn't always say that, so it's kind of a risk. The added bonus as well is that you can cook your own food.
Massive.
Versus staying in a hotel for that period of time.
Because Nice is a challenge finding a gym as well, by the way. If you're staying here, like I would probably recommend if you're here for a while and you're into the gym, because we've got a good routine in England at the minute, and that has been shifted a bit, only for a few days. But I would recommend staying at a hotel if the gym is more important than maybe cooking from home. I think that's you're probably going to have to, because we've looked for gyms and they're just not. It's not the same vibe, and it's like as in we found it impossible to get a gym personally, which again opens up other business opportunities and conversations. But again, it's like I would look at that definitely.
Yes. So
Nice, amazing.
We love it. Wrapping that up. Love Nice. We are gonna, I think you said that we are gonna pop the link to the Airbnb.
For sure.
Because it is amazing and we definitely recommend it.
Next thing. Where do we want to go with this? I think so. I was on a podcast yesterday with a old client of mine. She was a private client for a little while. And when we first spoke, she sent a few messages before we worked together. She wasn't in a good place financially. She wasn't in a good place in life. She had a lot of things going on, but she messaged a few times and was like, look, I need to do something. And I suppose we had conversations about more on the topic of it doesn't really matter where you're starting from.
Big.
Like you can learn and get through everything that you ever want to get through. If you have a clear vision and you're genuinely committed to changing. So I think, you know, with this podcast, and we've had so many messages, like genuinely, you know, I'm a little bit surprised about how many messages both Sally and I have had about people who are already in business or not. Doesn't matter really, but they're like, okay, I want something different. Where do I start? You know, I'm in this position right now, and I'm here. And some people are, you know, already quite successful in their own right, as in they're doing some killer things, but they're still not necessarily living what they would class as in alignment to where they want to be. And I think, starting here and going, it doesn't matter where you are at today.
Yeah, totally. And I think, like, I talked about this yesterday as well, because I think not a lot of people, but, you know, I think there's kind of this thought process when people look at the way that Martin and I, excuse me, I get the coughs with. So they sort of look at the way that we live our life and think, oh, the model that they teach or the system that they teach, you know, won't necessarily work for me because I'm not living that lifestyle. And as I pointed out, we didn't start here. And I think this is really important, because you've got to first have a desire to want to change your situation. I think, like, people try and go straight to the strategy of, okay, how do I do this? And what is the how? And what is the strategy? And what is the model? And how do I get from here to here? When first you really got to want to change and want things to improve. Because
so many things will happen first before you start to make some big moves.
Totally. Because if we look for the strategy, and by the way, there's strategy everywhere. Like strategy is for free. There's information online. Put it into Google and you will find the strategy. But it's the reason why you are not doing it and you are not living into the lifestyle, and all of those, you know, reasons and excuses and limitations that are followed by the new information that are currently stopping you from creating that. So that's why the desire has to be so strong in you, and that is your work. And that's what Martin and I have done, because we were like, we want to live this, you know, lifestyle. And again, we talk about the whiteboard, don't we, a lot. And we just got really clear on what we wanted to create. We didn't know how. We had golf courses on there, for God's sake. And it's shifted so much as well. But we started, and I think just having the desire and just being open to changing some things, because I think as well, when people want to change, they look at the boxes that are logical in front of them. And when they don't fit into those boxes, because you're not a box and it's not about fitting into a box, we made our own goddamn box. Like, that is the key here. So I think, I don't think anyone really starts off in a great position. They start off probably from a place of deep contrast, because they know with so much clarity that, hey, I don't want to be working really long hours, and I'm kind of tired of being stuck in a location, and I'm kind of tired of feeling like I don't have control of my life and my business and who I get to show up as, and just this feeling of stuckness. That actually is the catalyst to creating a new desire.
So key. I think Sally's so right there. Like, you can be stuck in, you know, we create our own box, and everyone does. But I think some people start further along. Like, let's face it, you know, you can, I think, you know, you're naturally born into something. There is an element of that, as in, you know, a third world country, or however politically you're supposed to say it these days. Like, if you're born into that, it's going to be harder. Like, you're going to have less opportunity. But the way I see it, I know Sally's from New Zealand, Auckland. I'm from I'm from Manchester in the UK, and then, you know, lived in Australia for a while. Like, there's so much opportunity in those places. And I think people listening to this are probably from, well, according to YouTube's analytics, they're from England, Australia, New Zealand, and the US, and a little bit in Europe as well. So it's a hotbed of opportunity. Okay. Like, I don't talk about it that often publicly, but, you know, growing up, my family household income was about £12,000, as in the three of us lived on that, and not forever. Like that was when I was younger. But again, that isn't a lot of money. And there was definite scarcity. You know, my dad was telling us at one point, wasn't he? They were constantly had debt collectors on the doorstep. Like that would have relayed onto me as a kid. Okay, I don't remember those times, but they were happening. There was constant shortages of money until I was probably in my late teens, where, you know, families naturally start to accumulate a little bit more money, I think. But again, you don't start from that. And you start to look at, I know I did, I started to look at my surroundings and going, well, this doesn't feel natural to me. As in, I see it with my eyes, but I don't want it.
Yeah.
And when you start to have that, your surroundings will naturally, I feel anyway, will start to go, no, it's okay, you're safe here. But safety isn't necessarily high desire. And I think that's really key. It's starting to look and go, okay, my surroundings may be safe and comfortable and somewhat desirable because they're so safe and normal. But again, if you're having that urge to do something else and break out of the box completely, and you're not going to break out of it all at once, by the way, you never are, but it will feel like everything's changing. And that's what I want to say. And I said it on the podcast yesterday. I'm like, it doesn't matter where you start, because you can learn the skills, you can go all in. So the example of Austin yesterday was, it was very much, she had $200 in her account, or maybe a bit more. And I was like, cool, send it across, go to zero, and then find the money to work with me outside of that. That's a big call, but she did it.
And I think to add there, you're able to make those big calls when you've done it yourself, because you're able to ask with power, and that's a standard because you know that you have done it, so you can mentor very powerfully for your clients.
That's a great point.
Whereas people are, you know, people can't, like most people are not willing to ask that of others because they're not doing it themselves.
Yeah.
We're not saying you have to go to zero, and that is part of entrepreneurship, but
it's definitely not.
It doesn't have to
definitely
be.
not. But it could be part of it. And that's the thing. It's like my journey was part of that. So when somebody yeah, exactly. And when somebody's on the other end of the call, as in example yesterday, you know, she was explaining that she brought this up. She was like, I was so scared on the other end of the call. But my reasoning was, well, Hudson, you said you wanted to make $100,000 in a month this year. Okay. If you're not willing to go to zero and do some big steps, you're not going to get to 100K a month. So do you want to talk about going to 100K a month?
Yeah.
Or do you want to do it?
Yeah.
Because they're two different things. And she was like, I want to do it. Great. Let's get moving. And that's the difference here. It's you've got to want it more than your current situation. So again, we look at today is not the reality. Like the reality is what you create, and it's not about, as Sally said, it's not about going into debt. It's not about doing this, that, and the other. It's about making the next step that is big for you, but you also know that it's going to take you to the next level. And sometimes that's investing in mentors. Sometimes that is relocating. Sometimes that's going on holiday, as in like, why are we in Nice? Because we explained on the last podcast, we were like, we're stagnant right now. We didn't plan to be in the UK at that time of the year for as long as we had without a break. Okay, it wasn't the plan. So when we were able to, as in Baz's eye is getting better, so it gives us the space for my dad to come over, babysit his granddog, and us for a little breakaway, which was really nice, wasn't it?
Absolutely. And I had so many things to add in that little like piece because it was just so good. But I think one thing I want to share is that I think some people are really scared of starting again. And I feel like I can absolutely relate, because I was probably someone who was way more naturally into their comfort zone. I'm like incrementally increasing, consistent, like not too big of a jump because that's a bit scary, but as long as I'm like just progressing and kind of going along the way and moving through life, and that was it. Nothing too exciting. But I think actually having the courage to bet on yourself and to start again when you need to is the most scary but liberating thing that you can absolutely ever do. Because when you put yourself into a position when your back is against the mother frickin' wall and you have no other choice but to back yourself, like there is no padding. There is no more mom and dad come and save me. There's no more like mentors, coaches come and save me. Not that it ever was that way, but I know people out there are kind of like, oh my God, they're my saviors. There isn't that. When you can back yourself 100%, and I'm not saying it's easy, it's certainly not, but if you can do that, you will be in your power, because by not doing it, you're saying, I can't make it back. Like I need to hold on to my savings, and I need to hold on to my friends, and I need to hold on to my clients and the business in the way that it is right now, because I don't back myself to go for the things that I motherfucking want.
Yes.
And I think that is the problem. And I think that's and so people want their results to change, and they want to live this incredible life, and they want to do all these things, but they're so paralyzed in their own fears and limitations on what gets to be possible for them, because they are just so scared of losing it all. Whereas I understand that, because I also have experienced that, and it is very scary, but I'm also where I am today because I'm willing to fucking bet on myself. Like it's, you know, and it doesn't just happen once. There's a lot of ballsy moves to entrepreneurship and to happiness. You know, we talk about success. I define success as how happy you are. How happy you are in yourself, how happy you are in your life, how happy you are with the people you work with, the people that you spend time with. Like you get to choose that. But sometimes when we're so scared of like letting go of the past and letting go of how we've done things, we don't make space and we don't make room for the new that is going to help you be more fulfilled. That's going to help you be more successful. That's going to help you be more like happy in yourself. And I just think it's like that saying, it's like the rewards you're looking for are on the other side of your comfort zone. So if we can this is why desire is so important, because if you experience a level of contrast, that's the universe saying, look at me, like look at
look at me. Yes.
Like look at the things that are annoying you, are frustrating you, are pissing you off, where you know that you're worth more.
Or not even like they can trigger you, or even worse for me, everything you said is amazing, by the way, but even worse is when it's just so normal and boring. Like I hate that. Like that's why we're in Nice right now, because I can tolerate it for a little while, but when things get boring, and don't get me wrong, there's an element of boring that is actually really great, and we've discussed this year, you know, like going to the gym and in routine, like that's all great, and it can get boring, but there's this underlying when that gets too much, and then it gets boring, and you're so comfortable because it's boring, and that just for me is that is where I feel depression and depressive states come from, because nothing's like, if your 30-year goal is not like wild, I'm just like, what are we doing for the next 30 years? Genuinely, like, and I know there's some people out there who aren't, they say anyway, I don't believe them, but I can't prove it. So it's like they say, no, I'm happy just to go and buy a house and settle down and do that. And I'm like, really? Like, are you really? If you are, by the way, credit to you for knowing yourself and knowing that that's your route. Like, because I do know people who are like that, but I'm also like, for me, I don't believe you. I think you're scared of failing. I think you're scared of changing. And that's ego. And ego is when you set an identity, and an ego is when you set the identity to be the same forever and ever and ever. And we're taught I would say in the media and things, you know, Sally used to say this at our events, and it was really true. It's like, you know, people say to Sally, "Oh my God, you've changed," and she's like, "Haven't you? Do you not want to change?" Like she used to say that to people.
It was always this negative thing, like,
change.
oh, you know, as a teenager or early 20s, you know, in the group, when one of the guys got together with a girl, and it would be a guy thing where it's like, oh, he's changed because of her, and you know, maybe. But and then there's probably some things in that as well. But I think when it comes to personal development and personal growth, people are not getting the results because they've not shifted the identity. They've not become the person that draws in and manifests the results. You can't stay the same and want 100K months. You can't stay the same and want to live in Nice. You can't stay the same and have your whole friend group when you're actually wanting to be a millionaire. And millionaire.
That's like, the thing. It's like the million, you know, people talk about the $1 million and like, it's like the reason you don't have it is because you're not it. You're just not it. And unless you change, you'll never be it.
Yeah.
And
you've got to believe the result can happen for you. And you've got to, it kind of sounds a bit woo-woo, but you almost have to like act as if, and that's the internal work of like, okay, what does it feel like to have, you know, to have a great group of friends who are super supportive, if that's your goal? Like, what does it feel to have a great partner? What does it feel like to be a millionaire? What does it feel like to be on that super yacht that's just wafting around in the back, in the Mediterranean behind us?
And this is why you've got to try stuff as well. Okay, because you know, we've been on a few super yachts in the last year. Why? Because my goal, Sally doesn't agree with this, but I want to own a super yacht. Sally wants to rent them. But I want to own a super yacht. Yeah, exactly. And then, you know, so you try them out.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we've been on a few this year. We probably won't go on one for another few months until the summer. But again, we just try them. There's no pressure on my side going, oh, I need a super yacht by September next year. That's not it. It's trying experience. And you don't know who you're going to meet, and you know, like there's a driver on a boat and he talks to other people, and do you know what I mean? It's like you never want to rob yourself of like any experience, no matter how big or small it is. But I think what you were saying earlier about sort of like the normal way of life and getting married and having kids and buying a house and all that sort of stuff, you know, you mentioned it was absolutely boring to you and that was never like a thing. That was for me, like, this is what I mean. Like, this is the realities here. Like, Martin thinks super big, and it's just like, I want, like, he's thinking, you know, 30 years ahead. And I'm like, oh, it would be nice to have you know, buy a house. And by the way, this was years ago now, because I've absolutely changed my mind on that. And that's the beauty, again, of experiencing things, because we are told from our parents and from our environment and from our school and our, like, environment, did I say that? Situation, that we are told what to think. This is the way things are always done. This is the society's way. You do it this way and you will, that's success. And we're not taught to ask ourselves what it is that we actually want, which again is brought on by experiences. So when we're living the same day, we're living in the same place as we've always lived in, like, how do we expect to think differently? How do you expect to think differently when you're always having the same conversations, you're doing the same things every day? And yes, there's an element of having routine. An example is the gym. Like, there is a routine. You need to have a routine because you've got to have, like, that's how you get results. If you're just coming in and out all the time, like, you're not going to go anywhere far. So there is an element of that, but when it comes to your level of think, because your success relies in your head. Like, it's how you think about yourself. It's what you believe gets to be possible for you. It's the realms that you're moving into. Someone who is very, very successful, you listen to their word tracks versus someone who has a very poor mindset. You can just see they are worlds apart. There's a reason why one is where they are. And it's so key, because what Sally's saying there, you know, different realms, different visions and different ways of thinking. There was a very practical moment when we rented one of the yachts last year in Sydney. we were sat there and oh no, it was actually in Gold Coast, and we were on a charter out in the sea. We were whale watching, that was it. But we looked back at the city of Gold Coast, right? And it was a very practical moment. I was like, we've never seen this view of the Gold Coast before.
Yeah.
And it's so true. Like, I don't know how I worded it at the time, but I was like, it's so true that the wealthy see things from a different perspective. They see it from a different viewpoint. Why? Because they're on a super yacht looking back at the Gold Coast. Okay. They're seeing things from different angles because they get into places where they can see bird's eye views of environments, of economies, of opportunities, of investments, and they just think bigger. So your way of going, you know, again, this is $1 Million Couple podcast. So it's like, how do you get to millionaire status in a partnership? It's not necessarily about a couple, but it is. How do you get that? You increase your level of think, you increase your people around you who also think that way and actually think bigger than you. That's the most important thing. And that's actually, you know, one of the places where most people, some people are great at networking and schmoozing. Most people will have to pay to get into those networks. And I think that's a really good thing, because if you pay to get in the network, then you value it more. That's just my perspective. Yeah.
I laughed then as well, because I remember a VIP day with one of our clients with one of our mentors. Two of our mentors, we were in a VIP day years ago. And I remember us saying, you know, we really want to get to 30K. And he was like, in a week. We were saying 30K in a month. And he's like, a week? And we were like, oh, like we just haven't, because this is the thing about money. I used to be the person that was like, I don't want money. Like, I don't need money. I just want to be happy. That was definitely my upbringing and my life. But what I've come to realize is, and this might make sense to you guys on a logical front, maybe even energetic as well, but without money, you don't have freedom. So we can talk about freedom. Yes. And that's what we underneath it all want through these experiences and through living life and just asking for more. You're actually opening yourself up to more opportunities and more freedom and more options. And that is freedom. And to do that, you need to have money. So I think it's not necessarily this taboo topic that shouldn't ever be talked about. I think it's like absolutely your responsibility to talk about the money side of things to yourself and get really honest with what freedom looks like to you, and then put a price tag on that. How much are those things? Because now you have a target. Now you have like this ideal, this idea or this vision of, you know, your lifestyle, but with funds attached. When we did this, it came up to like, I think we had different groups, but like the first one was like 1.5 or something. I was making $50,000 a year in my salary. That's a big jump. I didn't know how the F we were going to do that, but I was like, this is the life I want though. This to me right now is freedom. So am I going to sit here and be like, oh, that's too much. Maybe I'll get rid of that car and maybe I'll not buy that house in Sydney, or maybe and then this is what people do, right? They lower their desires to match their current reality. Don't do that. Stop. Like that is not, you've got, I'm so passionate about this. Like I almost can't like get my words out, because I'm like, I've been in that spot where money's not important. I just want to be happy. And like, I just want, you know, small like realities, but where your power comes from is declaring that, hey, I'm so clear on this is what I want. I don't actually know how I'm going to get it, but this is what I want. And this is what freedom means to me. And if I can get there, my world is just going to be really dope, and I'm going to be so happy. And like, that's worth fighting for. And I think that that's really important. So money buys you freedom. And so you can live this lifestyle. You can live a lifestyle and be happy. And I think that's like, I know I'm just like recycling everything, but I think that you need to be reminded that that is really the goal here. Yeah, 100%. And freedom. And it kind of ties into, like I said, we had 2 bullet points when we started this. Yeah, we have loads, but it's
I think, as Sally said, it's funny that you mentioned the number 30K as well. That's came in because it doesn't matter where you were at. And this morning, we had a client check in. Well, she checked in yesterday and she said she was inspired by a post and she was like, you know what? I'm just going to create a $30,000 offer today. So she mapped it out, she created it, and she sold it in less than 24 hours. Okay.
Amazing.
Like that's not been done before by her. Okay. This is the importance of, first of all, as Sally's just said, like she declared recently what she wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
She declared recently in the last few months who she's going to be in the future. And she knows that by thinking in the way she used to think and operating at the price point she used to operate at, like she ain't gonna get the lifestyle and the future for her family that she wants. She's far, far, far from that, okay, on her old price point of way and doing things, okay? She's close to her first 100K a month as we sit on this call right now, okay?
Pretty cool. Pretty
cool. And we're in February, so imagine doing your first 100K a month on the second month of the year. And we've only been working with each other for weeks now, isn't it? Like it's not that long. So what I would say again is it didn't matter where she started, but she's leaning into now her desires. And don't get me wrong, we've helped her. Like we've helped her with the structure, we've helped her with, you know, where her value is, because that is so important. People don't often see just how valuable they really are and how much value they can offer clients.
Yes.
But again, what is really clear now is she set the intention and she's going after it, Sally's favorite word, relentlessly. And it's almost as if right now, this is the way I feel for her. It's almost as if nothing is getting in her way anymore. She's cleared out all the blocks and she's just like, yep, I'll create an offer. Oh, someone's taken it. Oh, someone's paid me. Yeah. Amazing. And as Sally said before, it's like money's important. But I think what is so important is starting to leave behind old ways of doing things, because that is what's going to take you forward. I think and it's very exciting.
It's also the shift of like, you've made a declaration to yourself and you've said, hey, this is what I want. Like, this is what I'm striving for. Then you have the vehicle to help support you in that shift and in that transition. Then you manifest the result. Here's the freaking exciting thing, and that I just love. Yes, it's the financial wins, but it's the feeling of, hey, I've set the intentions of going out there and doing this, and I've got it.
I'm a winner.
Yes. And it's like, it's about setting up more wins in your life and in your business, because that actually gives you the confidence. People out there are like, oh, I want more money and I want more clients, and that's all really great. But what you're actually asking is, you want to be the person that makes that creates those situations and desires effortlessly. And it is effortlessly, guys. Like, I don't know if you're really getting that, because this was 24 hours. Our client made a declaration, manifested it. Like, it's not difficult. But
once you've done it, it's a forever thing. Because once you've done, and again, this is the thing, this is why, you know, I think business owners who make millions and, you know, maybe hit an upper limit and then come back down, they'll always make millions again. Because once you've done it, you know what the win feels like. You're like, yep, I know what that feels like. That felt good. I'll do it again. So this client sold a 30K. I know for a fact she's out trying to sell a second one now. Because she's like, well, God damn, like, this is amazing. I was getting paid minimal amounts before, so why not get paid 30,000 for what she does? Because now she's, you know, she's really feeling the value. But as Sally said, it's
the belief is there now.
Yes,
you've just created a new belief system, and then you start thinking, well, if I can manifest 30K, maybe I could manifest 50K, or maybe
300. I would say.
Exactly. I was getting that.
Yeah. But it's just going one to the other. It's like, cool, always 10x. So once you do your 10K a month, cool, how do you do 100K? Okay, we may as well aim for 100K in a month rather than 12, because I'm like, who's that exciting? Like 12K, maybe you might be like, oh, well, 2,000 to me is a lot of money. No, it's not. It's a belief that it's a lot of money. Stretch the belief, stretch the results, stretch the outcome, stretch the lifestyle, stretch everything, and you will receive in abundance, because that, like, let's get clear on this. Whatever's happening in the universe, in God, whatever's happening, like, look at it outside. Like, there's something going on to make this place so amazing.
Yeah, we're here.
Well, yeah, that as well. But there's something going on. Things are moving in the right direction consistently. So why not start to choose how that looks and what that looks like? Because again, you're going to get what you ask for. You always do. Which
is another reason why you've got to get out of your normal routine, and why that's so important. Because I mean, I shared on my story the other day that in the port, there's a 260-foot super yacht, and
ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean,
150 million to buy.
Yes, and I think to charter it was 800 and just under €1 million. And someone's renting that, guys. I think that's what I think is really important. And there's so many people just walking past this super yacht, and they don't think to themselves,
how? Wow,
that guy just bought that boat, or woman, I don't know. I think it is. I think it is a guy, a multi-billionaire. And it's, how like how is it happening? So there's people just walking around and not thinking anything of it, because it's like they're stuck in their own reality and mindset. But when you're looking out everything, and you realize that everything is available to you, everything is there. That is a physical manifestation just sat there. It's not something that is just in like imagination. It is there. So it's like, how can you start bridging the gap? Now, that may not be something for you, but it's just inspires a level of think versus the actual thing. So again, I think so many people are focused on so much on today. What can I get out of today? And what can I, like, how can I get to this point by next month? And it's like, you got to think bigger than that. You got to learn to think bigger than that. You've got to learn to be around the right people who expand your awareness around what gets to be possible, like our mentors did that time. And there's been so many, situations like this.
And again, this is what I said. And again, I said this to Artsin on the call yesterday. It was after the call. And I said, because she's gone down a media route now, she's not in coaching specifically anymore. I was just like, you need to be around people who tell you how it is, as in, like, we have that. And I think if you don't have that, if you've got yes people around you, or if you're the most inspirational person in the room, it's like, get around other people totally, and have conversations consistently. About where you can go bigger, because again, it's not money, it's not lifestyle, it's like, who can you become, when you're on your deathbed, 120 years old, it's like, how did you live your life, and did you fulfill, like, you're never going to fulfill all of it, but you can give it a damn good go. I believe that I've got another probably 80-90 years on the planet, and I'm like, cool, I've got some time to create. Nothing's a rush, but at the same time, I've got to be thinking bigger to allow myself to live into that. Love it. I think we're done.
I think that is
amazing,
very exciting. I'm like, is there something else that I wanted to say?
Rock and roll if there is.
No. I think that is it. I think that is a wrap.